Hello and good morning. You need a hood. I need a hood. You need a hood. You might be saying to yourself, I don't need a hood. Everybody needs a hood, Andrea. So we are going to make a hood in part because life has just been really rough for me lately and I wanted something calm and classically medieval to soothe myself with and hang out with you guys while I do it. I do actually have a reason to make a hood. I'm going to be going to the Ren Fair with a few friends in about a month, and one of them wanted to wear a sort of medieval hood situation, and I was like, you know what? I've got you. I can make that happen. So we're going to make a hood for my friend today, and I'm really excited in part because I've done a lot of very modern ease convenience style making of hoods in the past. I'm excited though because I'm going to be doing a Herjolfsnes style hood, which these are a bunch of sort of late medieval finds found in Herjolfsnes, Greenland, and it's really cool to have extant garments that we can see how the seams were put together and what the cut, like this one here on the bias. That is shenanigans. For those of you unfamiliar with hoods, this is a hood, and this is a hood. And this, I've even actually got two of these in short and long. And this fun little fantasy number 2 with its cute little tail situation back here. And I think part of what makes hoods so cool is that they're really quite variable. You have a lot of opportunities to insert your own preferences in there. They can be very loose and comfy or very tight and sexy. They can be open in the front if you want ventilations or fancy buttons. They can be closed so you don't have to think about that. They can be quite long in the skirt or mantle portion and give you a lot of protection from the weather. They can also be very short. You can even wear them in different ways. You can literally take one and just plop it on your head. You can take the edge and roll it and it becomes kind of a funny little cap with lots of floof coming around it. You can cut fun shapes into the edges called dagging, or into the front even. You can have a very fun, silly tail if you like, or you can just leave it rounded and kind of classic and chill. Now, pattern-wise, I think I'm going to go for a little bit of a Frankenstein, combining of a few different things for the Herjolfsnes finds. I really love the angle of the back of the head here. It's so elegant to me for some reason. I dig it. A lot of hoods tend towards the front of the face and the back of the head being the same, being parallel to each other. I feel like the angle is going to be really, really nice, but I don't want to do one of the ones where all of the fullness of the hood is to the front and to the back. So you can see here, front and back fullness, that's what we've got going on. I really like it when there's a gusset at the shoulder because the human body to me is meant to have more fabric come right here at the shoulder. That's where your body flares out, like head out. I was very briefly tempted to do this bias pattern. I sat down, I thought about it a little bit longer because a lot of things cut on the bias. Think of a bias slip or a bias dress. They really slink and hug the form that they're around, which I think would be wonderful if you wanted a really nicely fitted hood. And I don't. I want this to be more of a mysterious stranger in the corner of a tavern situation, and I feel like we want a loosey-goosey hood for that, although this mysterious stranger is wearing fluorescent bright Kelly green. I feel like if they wanted to blend in better, they should wear true fall colors, which I've actually been playing around with a little bit. I'm not normally a brown sort of person, but I wanted to try playing with my wardrobe a little bit. I tend towards very bright, happy colors and wanted to give more of like a very chill fall vibe a taste. I also feel like it's very Ren Fair-ish to have lots of good earthy tones. And so thanks to the sponsor of today's video, ThredUp, I got myself a cute little taste. I particularly love this skirt. This jigsaw skirt was originally estimated at $139. I got it for $36.99. I found it using ThredUp's new image search feature. You can pop in a picture of someone looking super cool that you're inspired by, and they will boop, 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 hunt up a top, a skirt, shoes. You know, it'll pick out elements in the picture to try and find you something that matches that look. I think it would also be really great if you are looking for something for Halloween. You can even share things directly from Instagram or Pinterest. Just go to the share option if you find a cool image or a cool outfit, and then share it to ThredUp, and it'll do its best to look at that image and pull up something that's visually similar, like all these really neat, bold black and white prints to match that black and white fan that I had just looked up. It's like being at an actual thrift store where you happen to spot something really cool without having to actually leave your house. You can change the way that you thrift by using ThredUp, and you can use that image search to shop any of your cool fall fashion inspiration pictures. And you can use my link down in the description and my code MorganD to get 45% off your first order plus free shipping with ThredUp. Check it out and find your new cool fun thing. You probably won't find any medieval hoods though, so we will have to actually make that. So let's get back to patterning. While my hood is going to be inspired by several different extant hoods, all from the same find, I am going to get the overall general shape from Museum Find 100597. We're going to use this just to get the basic proportions down. And the book, which is Medieval Garments Reconstructed, does have these lovely patterns put down on a grid. So from here, I could take my grid and count out how many squares make up the front of the face, how many centimeters, and do the same thing here. Then how many centimeters back? Okay, boop, 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 boop. And then continue to use that to get all the different reference points to make the hood. And that's a perfectly valid way to do this. However, I have the magic of technology on my side, and I'm going to use my projector. First, we're going to turn off all the lights in the room, then we're going to turn the projector itself on with my little remote here. Now, I have already done a video about how I originally set up my projector and got it to do the pattern shenanigans that we're going to do today, but that was a good 3 years ago. So let's do a quick refresher. We have our lovely projector producing a image on here. This is just like its starter screen image and isn't very helpful to us. So first we want to select, in this case, source. You can do lots of different ways to communicate to your projector to make it project what you want it to show. In our case though, I'm going to go to source, and then I'm going to select HDMI. Now you would select your image if you're working from an online pattern that you bought or is available for free. In my case though, I am working from this book pattern, so I'm going to use my phone to take a picture. Ideally, you don't want the shadow of your own phone within the picture, but you're going to take it top down, not from like a any funny angles, because that's going to distort the image. We're going to do a nice top-down image. Now I'm going to take that picture and share it to my projector via Chromecast, because I have a little Chromecast device plugged in there. Right now I can see my hood pattern placed onto my fabric. However, it is way too small, so we are just going to zoom on in this picture really quick, make it a good bit bigger, and we can also kind of adjust the placement by moving around. So let's start there and let's see how big it currently is. Now I've got it measuring to 12.5, which times 2 is 25, and 25 would get me about here, which has a little bit of room for ease. We could probably go even bigger, but that's a good like bare minimum that we want to be looking at. And once I'm happy, we can go ahead and start chalking around the outline using the projected image as a base. Boop, boop, boop. And then as you need to, you can move your image around and move your pattern to match. I have the rough outline of the hood chalked into place, which is all I actually really needed the projector for, so we can do the rest of this without that. I've got my general shape in, I've already included seam allowance, we're good to go there. One of the big things though that I want to change with this is the skirt, the mantle, the part that kind of sits right here, not here, the scarf portion, if you will, of the hood. So I did choose one of the longest of the extant hoods that I could find because I wanted that for this. But instead of having all of the fullness of this skirt pattern be in the center front and center back, I'm going to shift some of that fullness to the very middle. So I'm going to cut a line right down the middle here until I hit about the neck, and then I'm going to insert that fullness via a gusset shaped piece. So kind of a pizza quarter pie type shaped piece, and we're just gonna make it the same length as that cut, and that'll be that. For the leer pipe, which is the tail that sort of hangs off the back of the hood, I thought about having it be partially connected at the start like the extant one is for this particular example, but I really dig how the leer pipe is attached on 10606. It's got a really neat diagonal cut done into where the top of the hood is, and then the leer pipe, which is an entirely separate piece, is just inserted into that and stitched down, and I think that is so cool. So that is what I'm going to do for the top here, and then I think we have a whole lot of stitching to get done, which I'm both looking forward to and really not. Because while the color of my fabric is completely unlike the natural undyed wool fabric that the Greenland finds folks tended to have, I've accepted that, but I do still want to do a lot of the extant style sewing and stitches, both along all of the various edges as well as the interior seams. I feel like there's a lot of really cool, interesting hand-done stitches in there, and I think that's what I'm in the mood for. Now, thread-wise, I had several options for wool, all wool threads to match the original all wool threads that they would have used. However, normally their wool threads are also undyed like their fabric and therefore match, and mine don't. I thought about just embracing the contrast. Like, I did some little test stitches on some scrap to kind of see what I thought about that, and there is something really fun about embracing it completely, absolutely not even trying to hide it, visible hand stitch work. Like, there's something very cool and fun about that sometimes, but I think that's not the move for this particular project. So I think I'm going to go with this brown wool I have. It's very fine and thin and is the most invisible of my options here. I did briefly consider using pulled threads from the fabric itself, but it's so not strong. It keeps breaking, so I didn't even get all the way through sewing my sample before I decided that is not happening. I think my first seam is going to be in the back, which is always where I recommend you do your first seams. Do it somewhere like relatively inconspicuous. For my first bit of stitching, I'm going to go for a bit of a running stitch, a very close running stitch to attach my two pieces together. Then a bit of a stab stitch, a really kind of up and down, like a running stitch, except you really have to do each movement of the needle one by one in order to really get the type of tightness that you need to get the nice little even dots of stitching. It's also just a really good, like, reinforcing stitch. It's not going to move, and that also puts down the seam allowance so that it stays nice and flat, and you don't have as much of the bulk as you sometimes get with seams, especially in a relatively dense wool. And then for the finishing up of the seam allowance, I just did a whip stitch around, making sure to catch a very tiny amount of the fabric, but not so much that it shows through to the outside. So just a little smidge, and then passing that through the seam allowance several times until we have a nicely finished seam. Next up is going to be tackling the triangular shoulder piece here, which we're going to pop on in between these two lines, just like so. And what we want to do is overlap them enough for the seam allowance. And then I'm going to actually stitch this one from the outside once I'm happy with my placement, which is approximately, you know, about a seam allowance amount. Actually, let me put it on top so you can see. I'm going to go past the tip of the cut by about a centimeter or so. And then I know that I've got this right, even though there's excess here. I'm sizing it to where I cut here, not here. I went ahead and stitched the first line here. Looks like I got a little tiny bit of easing in on this seam, which I didn't quite intend, but oh well, it is what it is. We'll aim to get it a little bit smoother on the second go around here. This time I did a bit of basting to secure that edge back by about 7 millimeters. That's to try and mimic the originals. And I think from here, I'm just gonna kind of verify that this is gonna fit nicely about here. I'll handle this actual top edge at the end. I should go ahead and toss a few pins in or do some basting while it's nice and flat like this. And I think that'll avoid some of this slight puckering I've got going on over here. Done with the stitching, putting in that shoulder gore here. Now we're going to do the same thing again. I have pre-done the basting on these two just because I did find that really helpful on that side. And I will again add in my little triangle gore, making sure to line up the top first. And I'll put some pin-ins to help keep everything together while I do my sewing. But it'll fit in approximately like that, and it's just so cool how the triangle gores add a bunch of space where the shoulders are needed. I am all done with my triangle side pieces here for the shoulders. Next up, I'm gonna work on doing the back seam and the front seam right here. We're gonna leave the face of the hood open so that that can get some stitching later, but we're just gonna work on here down and then all the way across here, maybe leaving the very last bit up here undone because that's where the leer pipe is gonna go, that long piece. I think I'm gonna use the exact same seam that I've been doing so far. I feel like it's very nice and flat and lovely. There are some garments that are sewn with a standing seam, so you're not securing the seam down to one side on the inside like I've done here. You're just letting it stick up, which means that on the outside of the garment, it just tends to be more of a visible dip where that seam is standing up, right? And that's fine and makes sense for some of the skirts of the long gowns that you see with these finds, but I think that for a lot of these shorter seams, this flattened style works really nicely. I have finished the front and back seams, the shoulders are done, and we have a functionally wearable complete hood. We do have a little bit of finishing to go though. First is going to be the edge right around where the face is. We're going to turn that under just a smidgen, and I'm going to aim for about 7 to 8 millimeters, copying the Greenland finds, and all their hoods have a really very narrow, lovely little hem around the face. I'm going to do 2 rows of stab stitches. That is going to make it really crisply turn. Like, it's going to keep it folded really well. And then I'll finish the very raw edge here with a nice set of stitches all around. And I think I'm going to get fancy and add a little bit of thread to pad or kind of cover that raw edge. You see it in a lot of the Greenland finds, especially around hood openings and facings and necklines and things. That areas where, like, one, you want a little bit of extra reinforcement because they're going to get lots of wear and tear from like movement and stuff, but also I think it just looks really nice. So a lot of the hoods show some wear and tear of them being folded back, and that means that that little bit of like fine stitching around the face is going to be visible on the outside of the hood. And I think that's neat. I think it's really fun to finish something off extra tidy like that. Now for the bottom hem, I do need to cut off all of these bits that are of different lengths. I'm gonna kind of true up the whole edge, make it beautiful. And then lastly is gonna be doing the leer pipe portion. So I left that bit unsewn. There's a little hole there. And what I'm gonna actually do, and this is very fun, I've never done this before, but I saw it on one of the Greenland hoods and I think it looks cool. I'm gonna actually take this edge here and I'm going to cut it diagonally, just a little maybe 1 inch or 3 centimeter ish kind of diagonal cut, and then I'm going to boop the leer pipe into that cut open spot, and then of course turn down my edges and stitch everything all in place. But it's going to end up making it so that instead of this being kind of the natural orientation of the hood, especially when it's lying flat with that leer pipe is going to introduce a flatness at the back of the hood, which when you're wearing it, the weight of the leer pipe is going to kind of pull down this little flappy bit here. And I think I can picture how that's going to lead to a very elegant when worn type of garment. I really dig that. Rather than when you sew it flat, then it tends to just kind of flop to one side or the other, which is cute, but I can appreciate the aesthetic, the image, the vision of a flat folded down sort of idea here. I think that's going to be really neat. And just like that, I am done and feeling very ready for the Ren Fair. I feel like this is just the perfect thing to add to a Ren Fair outfit. I love the way that the hood falls. I feel like that is super clean and tidy. The way that diagonal cut kind of makes it fall flat. I think that looks great, and it's super cute when you wear it up too, because of the way that that kind of naturally just falls. So good. I feel like if you are looking for something to add to your next Ren Fair or Halloween outfit, a hood is a good choice. It's super quick and easy to make because it's small. It doesn't take up a lot of fabric. You could do lots of different things. You could do Red Riding Hood. You could do like animals. You can put little like animal ears. You can do any sort of like D&D, Ren Fairy, historical-ish like vibe type character. They're so good. I'm a big fan. And I feel like even just wearing them modernly, I feel like if you style it right, then you have a fantastic replacement for your standard hat plus scarf like fall attire situation. I had a lot of fun with this project. I think it was just what the doctor ordered for soothing my soul. I got to sit on the couch with my pups. I hope that my friend likes it and likes all the little contrasting threads that I did underneath. I feel like it adds a little tiny detail that I think is really cute. And yeah, then I got to work on the rest of this outfit, which you will see in my next video. If you haven't already, check out that ThredUp link down below to play with their new image search. It's a lot of fun. I will see you guys in a month.